Hey everybody, CVH here, and we'll be budgetifying another deck today. As you can see, we have Action Mage on the screen. This is the exact version I played a few videos back, maybe a week or two ago. So there's been some requests for this deck in the Budget-ify series, and it's been a sort of a fan favorite deck for budget players for a long time. People have been playing it when they first started building their collection. As you know, we did Aggro Battle Mage in the first video. In today's video, I'm using the same build I played a few videos back because I didn't really know if there was an established build out there, and we'll be budgetifying it and making it even more action-y, even more action as far as the Action Mage is concerned. But as you can see, it's already not particularly expensive to build. I'm including a few epics that a lot of people don't even include in the first place, so this is going to be one of the easier decks to budgetify. And as we move on with more of these in the series of budgetifying the decks, we'll probably encounter some more difficult replacements. But I already have an idea of what I'm going to do here, so let's jump right in. I will be taking out all of the epics and legendaries and replacing them with commons and rares. Again, trying to retain the deck's playability and its sort of its theme, and hoping we can try to win a couple games in casual with it as well. But yeah, let's take out the Shimmerine Peddlers first, and also I'm going to take out the Iron here because it's a legendary. And we're losing some draw power, obviously. Even the Iron gives us another card in our hand, which we could then use. And we're also, importantly, losing a 2-drop. So we're going to be putting in the Crystal Tower Crafters, which are, they fit the theme perfectly. They were staples in the original versions of the deck, and they're commons. The reason I wasn't including them is because I didn't know how well they'd function post-nerf, but here we are about to find out. Yeah, it seems like at the very least they're going to be okay, probably one of the best things we could include in the slot if we want a 2-drop that can start punching. So with that in mind, we're going to be taking an even more aggressive approach with the rest of these card replacements that I'll be talking about in a bit. So it's the first replacement. As we move on down, the second thing we're going to be changing is the Artaeum Savants. Now this was sort of my Crystal Tower Crafter replacement. In the last video I used it because we weren't using the Tower Crafters, and I wanted a way to benefit from all these actions we would be playing. All these cheap actions, so we're going to be taking these out because they are an epic. I still think they'd be pretty good in the deck, but we're going to be replacing them with another action that I did take out in the last version, Slaughterfish Spawning, which again is pretty reasonable, and I think if we're going to be playing the Crystal Tower Crafters, in order for them to be good, we need to play as many actions as possible, and Slaughterfish Spawning is a very aggressive card that can help us try to close the game out early. Like the Savant, it does sort of snowball if left alone, and it is, sometimes harder to remove than a Savant. One Execute, for example, is not going to be dealing with the entire Slaughterfish spawning, both Slaughterfish, so that does help us push our aggressive game plan. The next change we're going to be making is one that I think I probably should have actually made even before budgetifying the deck, is cutting the Daggerfall Mages. While they're a fine card, we just don't really need them, and putting in 2 copies of Hive Defender, just some assurance against aggro decks. The Crystal Tower Crafter could potentially help us as well. If it can get large enough, our aggro deck opponents might be forced to trade with it, or they'll get out of hand and maybe take some favorables against them. But the Hive Defender, just a really, really powerful common that you could even, a really, really powerful rare, budget card that you could even play 3 of if you're facing a ton of aggressive decks on the ladder. Also, Ardon Paladin is something we could choose here, but I just want the very good stats of Hive Defender. Probably better to play the Guard if we're playing the Slaughterfish and the Crystal Tower Crafter, because we really need to protect those cards. And the last change I'm going to make, as you can see, we've already successfully budgetified my version. But the last change I'm going to make, since we are going to be being more aggressive, super fast hopefully, and we lost some draw power earlier, is to actually cut the Golden Saints I was playing and replace them with the East March Crusaders. It's just something I'm doing due to the other changes. I noticed that, we're losing some card draw with the Shimmerines and the Iron. We really want to be an aggro deck, so we're breaking the runes even earlier, probably. East March Crusader will help us draw. It has a really aggressive stat line. It pushes as much damage as half of a Golden Saint anyway if the Golden Saint is going to go off. Obviously, it's less defensive, it takes over the board less, it's easier to kill, but it's giving us those cards, giving us ways to push early in the game. So yeah, that is the budget action mage, aggro action mage, as it were. 6 prophecies, really aggressive curve. Let's take it to casual and see if we can win some games with it and discuss how these card replacements are doing and maybe some of how the deck functions if you guys haven't seen it before. And here we go. And since I was prepared for this video, I already have the list ready to go on screen. I'm going to scoot on over to my normal spot. There we go. Got a Crusader first, the traditionally aggressive class, so we're going to be trying to get our early curve. Now, Cunning Ally doesn't hit the most in this deck. We did actually add to the agility count, add to the willpower count, if I remember correctly. But we will keep the Scouting Patrol, and we will keep the Ally just because it's so powerful against Crusader, dealing with cards like Rift Thane, maybe Orcs or whatever he's playing. And we do have the ring. I wouldn't keep a 3-drop without the ring, I don't think. But Scouting Patrol is pretty much ideal for turn 1. Scuttler. That actually trades pretty favorably with Scouting Patrol. Or the Imperial Grunt on the right, at least. Man, that Scuttler's good here. I'll tell you what. Can't even deal with it. But yeah, overall this deck has been a very cheap option for new players for a long time. I've recommended it to quite a few people. I've been recommending a little bit less, obviously, in the last couple of months, ever since the Slaughterfish and Crystal Towercrafter nerfs. But the core of the deck still remains the same. You're getting aggressive, and if you lose the board, hopefully you can draw enough burn between Crushing Blows, Lilendril Hexmage with cheap actions that would be otherwise useless, Lightning Bolts, and Ice Spikes to burn your opponents out.
Acknowledged. Let's shed some light.
So we do hit our Cunning Eye, that's good. He's probably going to be playing things in the future. We could use Lesser Ward here, but Lesser Ward with Crystal Towercrafter is one of the most important combos in the deck, I believe.
Curse you.
And there we have our good Firebolt target. And we are going to be super aggressive. Obviously, we've built a pretty aggressive shell here, so let's just go face and allow ourselves to East March Crusader. Hitting a Prophecy is not ideal, but we have the ring, and a limited amount of time to get max value from it. So I was thinking East March Crusader plus Firebolt, and I'm still thinking that, actually.
No matter what.
Yeah, if we had a Crystal Towercrafter here, we could just go Crystal Towercrafter, Firebolt, Lesser Ward, have a 3/3 with Ward that could then grow next turn with the fish, and use East March to refill later. So I do think Crystal Towercrafter is probably warranted in these builds still. Very easily answered nowadays by cards like Earthbone Spinner. Again, another good Firebolt target, not threatened by the Bog Lurcher at all. Scuttler can just hit for 1 as long as it wants. Let's deal the damage first, make sure we don't hit anything. We don't have Crystal Towercrafter out, so no reason to play actions beforehand, just to make sure, but we are pretty much just guaranteed to be doing that one. Slaughterfish spawning to the board. These are going to grow and become problems. We could even ward the one on the right if we're worried Scuttler might kill it the turn after this. Yeah, pretty straightforward deck. That's another reason I do recommend it. Ooh, Fireball. That got me, guys. But that's another reason I recommend this to newer players, is because it's a pretty straightforward aggro deck as far as your game plan. A lot of aggro decks you have to really think about like when to trade with the board, but your removal's so efficient in this deck that you kind of know when it's appropriate to use it on creatures. It's sort of like instinctual, like, yeah, I'm going to execute that because it's a good execute target. Pretty easy. Your creatures don't normally have to be doing the trading if your actions can do that for you. And as far as in the late game, you just have to know when to start converting your burn into actual burn, because sometimes, you know, cards like Crushing Blow can be used on relevant dudes or your opponent's face. It's important to know when to turn up the heat that way. Yeah, we'll be smacking, we'll be playing Slaughterfish spawning, and we'll be trying to kill our opponent next turn. And at this point, since we're just going for lethal next turn, I'm going to Lesser Ward the thing that, you know, it's pretty... Well, I guess theoretically that one would be the better Lesser Ward because it's a 4/1, but, you know, I'm going to Lesser Ward one of these high attack value 1 health guys, because we're just going to be trying to kill our opponent with whatever can stick this turn, in conjunction with the Ice Spike and Crushing Blow, which we've been waiting to go face with forever. But yeah, should be pretty good. Yeah, but Lesser Warding that one, if we think the game is going to go longer at all, is definitely better there. Should be fine though. We have 7 in this lane, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So let's go for it and see if it works. Higher attack first. Do we want to trade with that at all? I don't think so. And that game was just so fast, I think I'm going to queue up another one on the ladder. Or, excuse me, another one in casual, yeah. Sorry for not taking these budget decks to the ladder, but, you know, gotta preserve the rank somehow, guys. But I do think this deck could easily rank you up if you're just starting at, like, non-legend rank 12. If you build something like this, you know, you have the consistency, you're not playing a bunch of one-ups, you have a dedicated game plan. You know, you're going to be getting aggressive, so you're punishing any decks with a dedicated slower plan if they don't draw well as anything that's sort of all over the place, as long as you've built it for consistency. And I think we pretty much have. It's hard to go wrong. Actions and action synergy. I guess we start with Scouting Patrol again. See if it's good against the Spell Sword. This hand is a bit worse, depending on what he does early. It's dependent on him playing things. Scouting Patrol against Deadly Draugr is fine. Yeah, we're just going to play the Patrol here. No sense to ring into removal now. If we top deck Crystal Towercrafter, we could go Towercrafter, ring into Firebolt or Execute. And of course we have a trade there if we want. It's a fine trade. It's half of our card for one of his, and we'd rather play Firebolt to execute on that. Crystal Tower Crafter sometimes? Sometimes, lucky guys. So, do we want to just let that trade? Yeah. But we don't want to do it for him. We can make him do it and push that 1 extra damage because we are an aggro deck. And now it's really about what's worth more, the Execute or the Firebolt. I think we just spend the Firebolt now. But I'm unsure what this deck could be playing. We'll be at 3 Magicka again next turn. In Casual, it's really hard to play around things for me, because I'm not used to seeing a lot of these cards outside of Arena. So it's kind of like playing an Arena game. If you treat it like that, I guess it could be better. I think I'm going to just spend the Firebolt here. It's really tough, though. Maybe it's Execute, because we can Firebolt something and, like, trade up, depending on what it is. But I'm trying to think of what card that would be. Alright, I'm going to use the... Lurking Mummy's a card that I could see in the future, but it's unlikely. Maybe budget, though. Alright, I'm going to use the Firebolt here. Buff up my Tower Crafter somewhat. Yeah, it's a tough one. But this is when East March Crusader would be a lot better than Golden Saint, for example. We really need the refill soon. We can't really wait too long. Maple Shield. I guess we have a good Execute. Who knew? Who knew? Wish I had 5 Magicka so I could also ring into Bolt on that. It could be pretty annoying in the future, but saving my bolts for face or other threats in this lane, also not bad. So down to 26. Execute the 1-4, get 3 in. Thankfully no Prophecy there because I couldn't react to anything. I am out of stuff that I can actually play. He doesn't know that quite yet, though. And that's why drawing Lesser Ward is very important. Now, how greedy do I want to be? I could just play the Lilindril Hex Mage now and leave the 3-3 around, and I think I'm going to do that. It requires an immediate answer.
They'll never outsmart me.
You must be cleansed.
It is answered immediately, but it's still going to be able to push for that damage. Could also Wordcrafter it. I think I'm just going to smack 3 times and see what happens, and then judge again. Do you want all the damage even though we break a rune there? Just going to go ahead and play the Piercing Javelin even though it's more versatile than the Lightning Bolt. If I were talking like about a control deck or something, that would be pretty wrong here, but we're pushing, we're aggressive. And Lightning Bolt can go face. You can't Javelin the face. You can Lightning Bolt the face, so that's really the rationale there. Because we are getting him kind of close to where he could die at any given time. And that lane has sort of been lost for a while, so we don't hate that. That's a pretty good Piercing Javelin. We can just Javelin the 2-2 and give ourselves 4 more damage, and that way it's like removal and a Lightning Bolt. So into that, we sort of sacrifice our ability to attack with this, but I think it's fine. Yeah, let's do it. We deal 5, put additional damage on board, and leave him dead to the double bolt plan that we can actually play next turn.
Acknowledged.
Brains of a brawn.
And let's set up for it with a Crushing Blow to the face. And we can Wordcraft to the 4-4. Not a whole lot happening with this 1-1. But we set up lethal, even if he played, I don't know, an Immolating Blast or something, it's probably the best thing he can play on 7. Or even if he had 8 Magicka and got to play Dawn's Wrath, he'd be dead to the double bolts in my hand without a good Prophecy. Like a Healing Potion or Dark Harvester or something. But, as it stands, with all of this damage still remaining on the board, we don't even need to reveal anything. He just is confident he doesn't have a Prophecy there. I would have probably at least, you know, tried to survive there. But that's the game, and that's a bit of Action Mage, super budget version. As you can see, we're just getting aggressive. And that's sort of the plan in Arena too, if you guys are wondering. If your card quality seems to be lacking in Arena, you notice like 15 to 20 cards into the draft that, hey, my card quality's not great, I think I'm going to lose the long game against a lot of decks. The thing to do at that point is just sacrifice a bit of card quality and make sure your curve is really low so you can get really aggressive. And if you race and can kill your opponent in 5 or 6 turns, you don't necessarily need to compete with the crazy card quality that a lot of these decks have. And that sort of strategy can also work in Constructed. So this might be one of the better, more efficient aggro decks to be playing on a very strict budget. As you can see, no epics, no legendaries, although you could play them. Cards like Iron are definitely very good. But that's a little bit of the deck. If you've liked it, feel free to leave a like, comment, and subscribe to the channel for more strategy videos, more budget series in the future, strategy content, deck techs, and stream highlights. Obviously, I'll link my stream down below. Feel free to drop it a follow if you're interested in daily Legends streams, and I will see you guys next time.